When Meghan Markle first entered the royal spotlight, she was embraced with open arms. A glamorous Hollywood actress marrying cheeky Prince Harry was the perfect tabloid fantasy. The wedding felt like a modern fairy tale, with cheering crowds and glowing headlines. For a moment, the monarchy seemed fresh, progressive, and exciting. But a few years later, Meghan's narrative shifted dramatically. And not, as she and her defenders often claim, solely because of racism or snobbery. The public began noticing something else, a pattern of entitlement. The woman who married into one of the world's most privileged families increasingly painted herself as a victim of the very institution she joined. The infamous Oprah interview became a defining moment, remembered less for its shocking revelations and more for its flawless staging. What once looked like a fairy tale romance quickly turned into a tale of division, distrust, and disillusionment, leaving many to question her true motives. The infamous Oprah interview signaled Meghan's complete rebranding, from Hollywood starlet turned duchess to an outsider framed as oppressed and misunderstood. It was polished, emotional, and above all, a masterclass in victimhood marketing. But the real twist was Oprah herself. For decades, she had been the global icon of empowerment, the woman who inspired millions by preaching resilience, accountability, and transformation. Her empire was built on the idea that no matter where you came from, you could rise above hardship and claim your own destiny. Yet in recent years, Oprah seems to have abandoned that ethos. Instead of pushing her guests toward growth, she now indulges narratives crafted to generate outrage and pity. The Meghan interview wasn't hard-hitting journalism. It was a therapy session for public consumption, carefully staged, suspiciously timed, and dripping with grievance. And then came Charlie Kirk. Unlike others sidestepping the sensitive race issue, he called it early. Meghan wasn't exiled. She chose to leave. Meghan didn't walk away empty-handed. She left with millions in her pocket and a Netflix deal under her belt. As Charlie Kirk argued, this was never truly about racism. It was about behavior. The media games, the refusal to follow protocol, the disdain for royal tradition, and the superiority complex cloaked in social justice language. People caught on quickly and they didn't like what they saw. And here's the truth. You don't need to be a royalist to recognize it. This isn't about protecting the monarchy. It's about exposing a calculated performance. Meghan's narrative shifted the moment she realized she couldn't dictate the palace storyline. So she walked away, sought out cameras eager to cooperate, and recast herself as the victim of an institution that had once welcomed her. Yet the irony is striking. After publicly dragging the royals on global television, Meghan and Harry are slowly being let back in, quietly, strategically. Their faces remain on the official website, and they still attend high-profile events. The palace PR machine is already smoothing Meghan and Harry's return. But ask yourself, why? This isn't simply family reconciliation. It's something bigger. What we're seeing is an agenda that rewards Meghan for weaponizing identity, dismissing tradition, and reframing personal choices as political statements. While Charlie Kirk took heat for saying the obvious, Meghan collected millions and polished her role as the oppressed duchess on the world stage. Yet the public is still asked to view her as a misunderstood heroine. What unsettles people isn't just her performance, it's how powerful players embraced it. The mainstream media never pressed hard or demanded evidence. Instead, they echoed her words without challenge. Oprah handed her the spotlight. Netflix gave her a global stage. And every headline reinforced the same script. Meghan Markle didn't choose to walk away. She was forced out. The narrative stuck, not because it was true, but because no one dared question it. Meghan's most shocking weapon was a single word: racism. No names, no proof, no specifics. Just a vague insinuation powerful enough to ignite a cultural firestorm. And once the spark caught, anyone who dared to question it, like Charlie Kirk, was instantly branded dangerous or hateful. Yet here's the uncomfortable truth no one wants to say out loud. Meghan knew exactly what she was doing. Her timing, her pauses, even her tears were executed with precision. That infamous Oprah moment, where she claimed a royal family member wondered how dark her baby's skin might be, was the detonator. No context, no identity, just a heavy accusation left hanging. And it worked flawlessly. Headlines dominated global news. Social media lost its mind. The palace panicked, scrambling into defense mode. Mission accomplished. But the scandal wasn't only about Meghan's tactics. It exposed how the system enabled her. No pushback, no fact-checking, no one bold enough to ask tough questions. That's where Charlie Kirk drew the line. Love him or hate him, he refused to play along and wasn't afraid to call the narrative what it was. Manufactured. Charlie Kirk didn't sugarcoat it. He said it plainly. Meghan Markle wasn't some helpless victim. She was a master manipulator. She used her royal connection and mixed it with identity politics to secure global attention, endless sympathy, and lucrative payouts. And when Kirk exposed that truth, the backlash wasn't a fair debate. It was outrage. People don't crave honesty. They crave comfortable narratives. Meghan delivered one perfectly. A striking woman of color crushed by a cold, outdated monarchy. It was a ready-made story that let the world feel virtuous in its anger. It handed people a villain they could despise without guilt, and a heroine they could defend without hesitation. But it was just a performance, and Kirk refused to pretend otherwise. Then there's Harry. Once the cheeky, relatable royal loved for his authenticity, he now seems like a hollow figure, a prop in Meghan's ongoing drama. The spark that once made him unique has dimmed, replaced by the image of a man who bartered his independence for California mansions and scripted victimhood. After a Netflix series and a handful of podcast appearances, Harry still receives the red carpet welcome whenever he steps back into the UK. The palace frames it as reconciliation, but it looks far more like a polished PR reset. Let's not forget, Harry and Meghan built their brand by attacking the monarchy. They accused it of racism, mocked tradition, and dragged the Queen's legacy through the mud. Yet here they are, slipping back into the fold while William and Catherine quietly do their duty. No drama, no interviews, just service. And that contrast says everything. Integrity doesn't trend. Quiet dignity doesn't sell. What sells is chaos, grievance, victimhood, and emotional theater disguised as courage. Meghan's narrative has every ingredient: royalty, race, rebellion, and a convenient villain in the big bad monarchy. It's Netflix-friendly, Oprah-approved, and social media tested. And for the people behind the curtain, it's the perfect product. Controversy packaged as courage, designed to keep the spotlight fixed firmly on them. Behind the scenes, this drama remains far too profitable to resist. The third figure in the equation, the one rarely criticized openly, is Oprah. And here the narrative shifts from personal scandal to something much larger. Oprah once symbolized resilience. For years, she stood as proof that you could rise from nothing, preaching accountability, growth, and redemption. Her interviews were legendary for pushing guests toward truth and responsibility. But that Oprah seems long gone. Today, she's another cultural figurehead fueling grievance. Meghan wasn't given a platform to be challenged. She was given a platform to be glorified. And when the monarchy was accused of racism on global television without evidence, Oprah never blinked. She didn't demand clarity or press for details. Instead, she leaned in with sympathy. That wasn't journalism. It was an infomercial for victimhood. And that's the most troubling part. Oprah still wields enormous influence, yet instead of shining light, she allowed one of the most damaging smear campaigns of our era to spread unchecked. This was never just about airing grievances. It was about rewriting Meghan's image, dismantling the very family she married into, and weaponizing public outrage as her sharpest tool. What makes it more disturbing is how the same royal institution she worked so hard to discredit is now quietly paving the way for her return. Harry is featured once again in palace pamphlets. His image remains on the official royal website. His appearances are promoted not as those of a disgraced exile, but framed as acts of charity, goodwill, and duty. Meanwhile, Meghan stays just far enough in the background to avoid direct criticism, yet close enough to benefit from the association. And that leaves the crucial question. Why is the palace permitting this? Why would King Charles, above all others, allow the return of a couple who spent years undermining the monarchy's credibility? The answer can only be weakness or strategy, and both are disastrous. Because if the palace believes playing nice will contain the damage, it has already lost. You cannot welcome back those who tried to torch your house while it's still burning. That isn't diplomacy. It's surrender. And the silence surrounding it is deafening. The media barely touches the subject now. The pundits who once defended the monarchy have disappeared. Even William and Catherine, the family's last symbols of stability, are being eased to the margins. Fewer public appearances, less media focus, reduced presence in official channels. Why? Because they're too steady, too composed. They don't generate headlines the way Harry and Meghan do. No tantrums, no scandals, just duty. But in today's climate, duty doesn't sell. Drama does. The most disturbing part is how Meghan is being repackaged as a revolutionary. In reality, she's an opportunist stitched together by contradictions. She demands privacy while courting cameras. She demands justice while avoiding accountability. And yet, somehow, this carefully crafted act is sold to the public as courage and celebrated as progress. She demands respect, but denies it to the very institution that gave her global fame. Powerful backers keep her afloat, shaping the story and silencing dissent. Anyone who pushes back risks being crushed. Charlie Kirk proved it. He spoke plainly, pointing out what many already knew but feared to say. For that, he was branded hateful, dangerous, unacceptable. Yet he wasn't wrong, just inconvenient. And in today's climate, being inconvenient is enough to be erased. That's the real tragedy. This isn't only about Harry, Meghan, or Oprah. It's about a culture where grievance trumps truth, performance outweighs principle, and silence is safer than courage.